You've heard the saying, right? Revenge is a dish best served cold. It's a classic for a reason, I suppose. But me? I've always had a slightly different taste. I prefer my revenge served with a view, a garden, and a brand new set of house keys. Keys that unlock a door my sister Morgan dreamt of walking through as its owner. She, the one who tried to shatter my world with a single public announcement, as if her words were a wrecking ball aimed at my life. She told our entire family, everyone we knew and loved, that I was bankrupt. Just like that. No warning, no truth, just a calculated strike designed to humiliate me, to break me. She probably walked away from that little performance thinking, job done. Natalie's finished. Oh, if only she knew. If only she had an inkling of what her cruel words would unleash. Because while she was basking in her moment of perceived superiority, I was already setting the stage for a reveal she would never, ever forget. The very next day, fueled by a fire she'd ignited, I didn't just pick myself up. I picked up the phone and bought her dream house. So, hey everyone. You just got a glimpse of the absolute roller coaster I'm about to take you on. Before we dive fully into how this all unfolded, make sure you're truly sitting down for this one, and seriously, hit that subscribe button right now because, as you can probably tell, the story I'm about to share is, well, let's just say it's one for the books. To understand the depth of this story, you need to understand Morgan. My sister. She wasn't just a golden child. She was the golden child, as if our family was a stage and she was always in the spotlight, while I was content with a vital role backstage. She became a realtor, and not just any realtor, a highly successful one, closing deals on properties that most people could only fantasize about. And Morgan? She loved to let everyone know it. Her successes were billboard-sized, broadcast at every opportunity. My life, on the other hand, was painted as the muted, sensible backdrop to her dazzling show. I'm a nurse. I dedicate my life to caring for others, to mending broken bodies and offering comfort in times of distress. It's a demanding job emotionally and physically, but it's incredibly fulfilling. To Morgan, however, my career was quaint, serviceable, certainly not glamorous enough to compete with her world of high commissions and designer suits. She often made subtle and not-so-subtle digs about my modest life, my predictable choices. My supposed failures were her favorite topic, carefully curated and presented to make her shine brighter. The stage for her grand performance of my downfall was, of all places, our annual family reunion. Picture this, a sprawling backyard, checkered tablecloths, the smell of barbecue in the air, distant laughter of cousins playing. A day that's supposed to be about connection, about warmth. Morgan chose this idyllic setting, surrounded by aunts, uncles, grandparents, everyone who mattered, to strike. She stood up, clinking her glass for attention, that familiar, overly confident, smug smile plastered on her face. It was a smile I'd seen 1,000 times, usually preceding some self-congratulatory announcement or a thinly veiled criticism aimed my way. But this was different. I need to share some troubling news with you all, she began, her voice dripping with faux concern. The chatter died down. All eyes turned to her. It's about Natalie. My heart lurched. What now? Well, there's no easy way to say this. Natalie is bankrupt. The word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, like an anchor suddenly chained to my reputation. Bankrupt? Me? Gasps rippled through the crowd. I saw faces turn towards me, a mixture of shock, pity, and disbelief. My cheeks burned. My mind raced. Bankrupt? It was a lie. A complete, utter fabrication. I wasn't just financially stable. I had been diligently saving and investing for years, a quiet discipline Morgan knew nothing about or chose to ignore. This wasn't just an uninformed comment. This was a deliberate, malicious attack designed to strip me of my dignity in front of everyone I loved. I felt the ground beneath me sway. Devastated doesn't even begin to cover it. It was a public execution of my character, orchestrated by my own sister. But as the initial shockwave passed, something else began to bubble up through the humiliation. A cold, hard resolve. In that moment, watching her soak in the drama she'd created, her eyes glinting with triumph, a plan didn't just spark. It ignited. A roaring fire of determination. She wanted to paint me as a failure? Fine. I would show her and everyone else what I was truly capable of. Morgan, for all her talk of exclusive listings and luxury properties she dealt with daily, had one particular obsession, a singular fixation that had consumed her for years, a breathtaking mansion nestled on the most prestigious street in town, Oakley Drive. 227 Oakley Drive. It wasn't just a house to her, it was the house, her ultimate dream, the pinnacle of success she so desperately craved to display. She'd drive by it, pointing it out to anyone who would listen, describing in excruciating detail how she'd decorate each room, the lavish parties she'd host. It was her symbol of having truly made it. She'd even framed a glossy photo of it, torn from a luxury real estate magazine, and kept it on her desk, a constant reminder of her grand ambition. That night, after the reunion from hell, I could have easily crumbled. I could have retreated into a cocoon of despair, replaying her cruel words, the shocked faces, the suffocating shame. And for a few hours, I won't lie, the darkness felt overwhelming. But Morgan's venom had an unintended side effect. It had also injected me with a potent dose of adrenaline and an almost furious clarity. Instead of letting her truth become my reality, I chose to act. The image of that smug smile, the echo of her pronouncement, it all fueled me. I didn't just want to prove her wrong. I wanted to rewrite the narrative she was so eager to pen for me. So I opened my laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard, not to search for bankruptcy lawyers as Morgan probably imagined, but for the top high-end real estate agent in the city. I found her, someone discreet, experienced, known for handling sensitive, high-value transactions. My heart was pounding, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I picked up the phone, my voice surprisingly steady. "Hello," I said when she answered. "My name is Natalie, and I want to make an offer on 227 Oakley Drive." I could almost hear the unspoken surprise on the other end. This wasn't a property that just anyone could inquire about. "I'm a serious buyer," I continued, preempting any doubt. "All cash. And this needs to be handled with the utmost discretion. No one can know. Especially not my sister, Morgan. She's also in real estate." I emphasized her name, hoping the agent would understand the delicacy, the near impossibility, of what I was asking. An all-cash offer for a multi-million-dollar property, emerging out of the blue, with a secrecy clause? This whole operation felt like conducting a secret symphony. Every note, every player had to be perfect and utterly silent until the grand performance. But the agent, a consummate professional, barely skipped a beat. She asked pertinent questions, her tone intrigued but businesslike. We talked figures, timelines, the complexities of a swift, silent purchase. While Morgan was likely replaying her triumphant reunion speech, perhaps even calling relatives to further embellish her tale of my supposed ruin, I was on the phone for hours, deep in negotiations, arranging wire transfers, signing documents electronically. Each keystroke, each signature, was a silent act of defiance. I was moving mountains, all while maintaining an outward appearance of, well, whatever Morgan expected of a bankrupt person. It was the biggest, most terrifying, and most exhilarating secret I had ever kept. The irony was delicious. She was busy broadcasting my fictional downfall, while I was orchestrating a real-life triumph she couldn't even begin to imagine. I was making the biggest purchase of my life, not just with money, but with a resolve forged in the fires of her betrayal. A few weeks later, the perfect opportunity presented itself. Morgan's birthday. And Morgan didn't do understated birthdays. Hers was always a lavish affair, an extravaganza designed to showcase her success, her connections, her impeccable taste. This year was no different. A chic downtown venue, a guest list filled with her industry peers, flowing champagne, and Morgan, of course, at the center of it all, lapping up the attention. It was, in short, the perfect stage for my own little production. I'd spent the intervening weeks in a whirlwind of secret meetings, financial arrangements, and nerve-wracking anticipation. The deal for 227 Oakley Drive had closed. The keys were in my purse. The weight of them felt both heavy and incredibly liberating. I arrived at her party, offering a polite smile, enduring the pitying glances from some who'd heard her news about me, and the smug, knowing looks from Morgan herself. She probably thought I was brave for even showing my face. Little did she know. I waited for the right moment, when she was holding court, recounting some recent triumph. I stepped forward, my voice calm, cutting through the chatter. "Morgan," I said, a small, enigmatic smile playing on my lips. "Happy birthday. I have a surprise for you." Her eyes lit up, instantly intrigued. Morgan loved surprises, especially if she thought they were about her or for her. "Oh? What is it?" she asked, a greedy curiosity in her tone. "It's an experience, really," I replied, keeping my voice light. "And it's on Oakley Drive." The moment I said Oakley Drive, her expression shifted. Her eyes widened, a flicker of something, hope? Disbelief? Crossing her face. Oakley Drive was her Narnia, her Shangri-La. "Oakley Drive," she repeated, almost breathlessly. "What on Oakley Drive?" The other guests faded into the background. It was just her and me. "You'll see," I said. "Let's go." She was practically vibrating with excitement. No doubt imagining I'd arranged a private tour of the house, or perhaps that one of her wealthy clients had finally listed it and I was giving her an inside scoop. The possibilities in her mind were probably endless, and all of them centered around her finally getting closer to her dream. We drove in my car. The silence was thick with her unasked questions and my unspoken triumph. She kept glancing at me, trying to read my expression. I offered nothing but a serene smile. As we turned onto Oakley Drive, her excitement became palpable. And then we pulled up to it. 227, her dream house. In all its stunning, majestic glory. It looked even more magnificent up close, bathed in the soft afternoon light. "This is it," she breathed. Her voice filled with awe, her eyes devouring every detail of the facade, the manicured lawns, the grand entrance. "Natalie, what is this? Did you arrange a viewing? Is it for sale again?" She was practically bouncing in her seat. I simply turned off the engine, reached into my purse, and pulled out a small, unassuming object, a set of keys. Her eyes followed my hand, a confused frown starting to form. I stepped out of the car, walked up the pristine pathway, right to the imposing front door. She followed, a few steps behind, her brow furrowed. I inserted a key into the lock. It turned with a satisfying click. I pushed the grand door open, revealing a glimpse of the magnificent foyer beyond. Then I turned to face her, my smile no longer enigmatic, but wide and genuine. "Happy birthday, sister," I said, my voice clear and steady. "Welcome to my new house." Her jaw didn't just drop. It practically hit the manicured flagstones. Her perfectly applied lipstick suddenly looked garish against her pale, shocked face. "You're your house," she stammered, her eyes darting from the open door to my face and back again. But you're bankrupt. You told everyone." "I told everyone." The words tumbled out, a jumbled mess of confusion and dawning horror. "That," I said, savoring the moment, the perfect, exquisite moment of reversal, "was your lie, Morgan. Your story. A flimsy script you wrote, expecting me to play the part. But while you were busy directing your fiction, I was producing a blockbuster reality." I gestured to the house, the symbol of everything she'd ever wanted, now mine. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant sound of a lawnmower and the frantic thumping of, I could only imagine, her own heart. The color drained from Morgan's face, then rushed back in a furious tide. Her carefully constructed composure shattered into a million pieces. You can't," she finally shrieked, her voice raw with disbelief and a dawning, impotent rage. "You did this to spite me. This whole thing, buying this house, it was all just to humiliate me." Her accusation hung in the air, sharp and bitter. I looked at her, truly looked at her, perhaps for the first time without the filter of old hurts or familial obligation. And I considered her words. "Maybe there's a little bit of that in there, Morgan," I admitted calmly. "A little bit of poetic justice, perhaps? You can't deny there's a certain symmetry to it. You tried to publicly destroy my reputation with a lie, and now your dream house is the setting for the truth." But then I shook my head. "Mostly, though, I did this for me. I did it to reclaim my story, the one you were so eager to rewrite with me as the tragic, bankrupt failure. For years, Morgan, you've gone out of your way to make me feel small, to overshadow any accomplishment of mine with your own, to define me by what you perceived as my shortcomings. I took a deep breath. You saw me as the quiet, unassuming nurse, easily dismissed, like a calm river, never bothering to look deeper, to see the strong, determined current flowing beneath the surface. Well, now you see it. Now you see who I truly am. Not the person you tried to paint me as, but the person who could stand up to your cruelty and, instead of breaking, build something even more spectacular in response. My voice wasn't loud, but it was firm, filled with a conviction that surprised even myself. The news, of course, spread like wildfire through the family. When my parents found out, not through Morgan's distorted lens, but through the undeniable fact of my new address and the quiet, irrefutable proof of my success, they were, to put it mildly, stunned. There were long, difficult conversations. There was disbelief, then a slow, dawning understanding. And finally, something I hadn't realized I'd been craving from them for so long, a new kind of respect. The family dynamic didn't just tiptoe. It took a definite turn. It was like the old, blurry photo of our family roles had suddenly been brought into sharp, undeniable focus, with me in a place they never expected. A respect that wasn't just for my financial acumen, but for the courage it took to stand up for myself, to turn such a painful public humiliation into a profound personal victory. Suddenly, I wasn't the family failure, the less accomplished sister, the one to be pitted or condescended to. It wasn't just about the house, magnificent as it was. The house was a symbol. It was the physical manifestation of me taking back my power, of refusing to let someone else's narrative define me. Morgan's attempt to break me had, ironically, made me stronger, more determined, more aware of my own capabilities than ever before. She had intended to slam the door on my prospects, but instead, she inadvertently handed me the keys to a brand new avenue. So there you have it. The whole story. From public humiliation to a very private, very satisfying victory. Now I have to ask you, what do you think? Was it an act of epic revenge? Was it simply a case of just desserts being served, perhaps on a very expensive gold-rimmed platter? Or was it something more, a lesson in resilience, in rewriting your own story when someone else tries to dictate the ending? I genuinely want to hear your take on this. Drop your thoughts, your theories, your own stories of overcoming a tough situation down in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for watching, for listening to my journey. It wasn't an easy story to share, but I felt it was an important one. If this resonated with you, if you found yourself cheering or cringing, or maybe even a little bit inspired, please do me a huge favor. Smash that like button. Let me know you were here. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on whatever life, or my sister, throws my way next. Because if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that life is full of unexpected turns. And ultimately, no matter what anyone else says or does, you are the author of your own life. Remember that. Always. Write your own story. Make it a bestseller. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you in the next one.